Antes de paso a la mesa internacional, debido a que no nos ha podido acompañar hoy en persona, procederemos a ver un vídeo que nos ha enviado la experta independiente Claudia Mahler.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, it is an honor to address you at the opening of this edition of Vivir Más, Vivir Mejor. I would like to congratulate Help Age Spain on hosting this important platform for dialogue and exchange on the rights of older persons in Spain, especially considering the context of COVID-19 pandemic and its severe impact on older persons. Only by bringing different stakeholders together, including older persons themselves, we can draw lessons from the pandemic and find inclusive and effective paths for policy exchange. As the name of the forum suggests, enjoying longer lives should also mean enjoying them in dignity, equality, and with the ability to exercise human rights. The COVID pandemic tragically showed that this is far from the reality, as older persons faced isolation, discrimination, limited access to healthcare and services, and prejudice and hate speech in different forms. The examples of impact and risk are as diverse as the group of older persons. The impact of COVID-19 pandemic were the focus of my first report as the independent expert and the mandate's first report to the General Assembly in October 2020. The report examined the legal framework governing rights to health, adequate standard of living, palliative care, and age discrimination, contextualized them in the onset of the pandemic, looked at their impact to older persons, and provided recommendations in those areas. It also showed how the pandemic drastically amplified existing ageism that results from portraying older persons as a burden to society. The pandemic has made very evident the urgent need to combat stigma and age discrimination. 1 year later, awareness and recognition of the human rights concerns and challenges faced by older persons has improved to some extent. These have become more visible in public debates. There has also been more emphasis on intergenerational initiatives and support. But this needs to be underpinned by robust legislative and policies change so that the rights of older persons are effectively promoted and protected in times of crisis as well in normal times. In my newest report on ageism and age discrimination presented to the UN Human Rights Council earlier this month, I highlighted the importance of a human rights-based approach in law, policy, and institutional practice related to aging and older persons as the most appropriate and effective framework to move forward. A human rights-based approach recognizes that age is socially constructed and that older persons encounter diverse challenges and needs. It supports meaningful participation of older persons and places the principles of autonomy and independence at the center of policy objectives. Ladies and gentlemen, there cannot be dignity and equality of rights if older persons continue to be viewed primarily as beneficiaries of care and support that create pressure on budgets and resources. A human rights-based approach is absolutely needed to shift this welfare paradigm to one recognizing older persons as rights bearers that have the same guarantees of dignity, equality, participation, autonomy, and independence during their entire life course. States must embed the human rights-based approach to aging in all their policies, including those relating to social security and healthcare systems. Efforts to protect older persons should not overlook the multiple roles older persons play in society, including as caregiver, volunteers, and community leaders. It is essential to be aware and embrace the full diversity of older persons in the older persons category. Women, for instance, are overrepresented among both older persons and the paid and unpaid care workers who look after them. Moreover, there is an acute need for additional and more granular data to develop evidence-based policies that are inclusive of older persons. Such data will render older persons and their immense contributions and unique role visible and reflect their immense diversity. It is vital not to forget the distressing reports that have surfaced during the COVID-19 pandemic about care homes that lack the necessary equipment and resources, that have isolated and neglected residents, and that have provided insufficient medical interventions and palliative care. This not only brings up the structural questions of standards, monitoring, and reporting within care homes institutions, but also a much needed moment to reflect on how should human rights complaint long-term care systems be organized and regulated. Here I would again wish to stress the absolute need to ensure that older persons are enabled to lead autonomous lives according to their choices. This also calls for a paradigm shift that focuses on the inclusion of older persons in society at all levels, encompassing age-friendly communities and environments, as well as people-centered models of care, and that promotes the autonomy, independence, and dignity of older persons. In this regard, I welcome discussions and studies at the European Union level focusing on aging and older persons, including long-term care services. The Commission's Green Paper on Aging initiated a broad policy debate on aging. This presents an opportunity to put a human rights-based approach into practice and take concrete actions by proposing forward-looking and rights-based policies. Options for aging in dignity, equality, autonomy, and independence. This should include an EU equality strategy for the rights of older persons as a conceptual framework for mainstreaming aging across various policy areas. At the international level, the lack of a comprehensive and integrated international legal instrument to promote and protect the rights and dignity of older persons continues to have significant practical implications. Current instruments do not specifically address the issue of aging or make them sufficiently visible. They therefore preclude older persons from the full enjoyment of their human rights. Crucial areas have not been covered extensively, including long-term and palliative care. It is therefore important to see action at this level too. Ladies and gentlemen, in line with my mandate, I will continue to closely monitor and report on developments regarding the human rights of older persons, including in the context of containing and recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. I encourage all of you to actively engage with my mandate. For example, by bringing attention to specific cases of violations of the rights of older persons and sharing information about relevant developments, challenges, and protection gaps in the realization of the enjoyment of all human rights by older persons. Let me conclude by reiterating the need to listen to older persons in the consideration on how to find our way forward. With the harsh reality of COVID-19, we need better preventive approaches to ensure that human rights violations are not repeated and that strong and effective frameworks for the promotion and protection of the rights of older persons are in place at national, regional, and international level. I thank you for your attention and I wish you a successful and fruitful exchange during the edition of the Forum.